Episode 187. His breath misted the surface of the glass. He held the mirror even closer, excitement flooding through him. But the eyes blinking back at him through the fog were definitely his own. He wiped the mirror clean again and said, so that every syllable rang clearly through the room, "Sirius Black." Nothing happened. The frustrated face looking back out of the mirror was still, definitely his own. Sirius didn't have his mirror on him when he went through the archway, said a small voice in Harry's head. That's why it's not working. Harry remained quite still for a moment, then hurled the mirror back into the trunk where it shattered. He had been convinced for a whole shining moment that he was going to see Sirius, talk to him again. Disappointment was burning in his throat. He got up and began throwing his things pell-mell into the trunk on top of the broken mirror. But then an idea struck him. A better idea than a mirror. A much bigger, more important idea. How had he never thought of it before? Why had he never asked? He was sprinting out of the dormitory and down the spiral staircase, hitting the walls as he ran and barely noticing. He hurtled across the empty common room, through the portrait hole, and off along the corridor, ignoring the fat lady who called after him, "The feast is about to start, you know. You're cutting it very fine." But Harry had no intention of going to the feast. How could it be that the place was full of ghosts whenever you didn't need one, yet now? He ran down staircases and along corridors and met nobody, either alive or dead. They were all clearly in the great hall. Outside his charms classroom, he came to a halt, panting and thinking disconsolately that he would have to wait until later, until after the end of the feast. But just as he had given up hope, he saw it. A translucent somebody drifting across the end of the corridor. "Hey! Hey, Nick! Nick!" The ghost stuck its head back out of the wall, revealing the extravagantly plumed hat and dangerously wobbling head of Sir Nicholas de Mimsy Porpington. "Good evening," he said, withdrawing the rest of his body from the solid stone and smiling at Harry. "I am not the only one who is late, then? Though," he sighed, "in rather different senses, of course. Nick, can I ask you something?" A most peculiar expression stole over nearly headless Nick's face as he inserted a finger in the stiff ruff at his neck and tugged it a little straighter, apparently to give himself thinking time. He desisted only when his partially severed neck seemed about to give way completely. "Now, Harry," said Nick, looking discomforted, "can't it wait until after the feast?" "No, Nick, please," said Harry. "I really need to talk to you. Can we go in here?" Harry opened the door of the nearest classroom and nearly headless Nick sighed. "Oh, very well," he said, looking resigned. "I can't pretend I haven't been expecting it." Harry was holding the door open for him, but he drifted through the wall instead. "Expecting what?" Harry asked as he closed the door. "You to come and find me," said Nick, now gliding over to the window and looking out at the darkened grounds. "It happens sometimes when somebody has suffered a loss." "Well," said Harry, refusing to be deflected, "you were right. I've come to find you." Nick said nothing. "It's," said Harry, who was finding this more awkward than he had anticipated, "it's just, you're dead, but you're still here, aren't you?" Nick sighed and continued to gaze out at the grounds. "That's right, isn't it?" Harry urged him. "You died, but I'm talking to you. You can walk around Hogwarts and everything, can't you?" "Yes," said nearly headless Nick quietly. "I walk and talk. Yes." So you came back, didn't you? Said Harry urgently. People can come back, right, as ghosts? They don't have to disappear completely. Well, he added impatiently when Nick continued to say nothing. Nearly Headless Nick hesitated, then said, "Not everyone can come back as a ghost." "What do you mean?" said Harry quickly. Only wizards." "Oh," said Harry, and he almost laughed with relief. "Well, that's okay then. The person I'm asking about is a wizard, so he can come back, right?" Nick turned away from the window and looked mournfully at Harry. "He won't come back." "Who?" "Sirius Black," said Nick. "But you did," said Harry angrily. "You came back. You're dead and you didn't disappear." "Wizards can leave an imprint of themselves upon the earth to walk palely where their living selves once trod," said Nick miserably. "But very few wizards choose that path." "Why not?" said Harry. "Anyway, it doesn't matter. Sirius won't care if it's unusual. He'll come back. I know he will." And so strong was his belief that Harry actually turned his head to check the door, sure for a split second that he was going to see Sirius, pearly white and transparent, but beaming, walking through it toward him. "He will not come back," repeated Nick quietly. "He will have gone on." "What do you mean, gone on?" said Harry quickly. "Gone on where?" "Listen. What happens when you die anyway? Where do you go? Why doesn't everyone come back? Why isn't this place full of ghosts? Why?" "I cannot answer," said Nick. "Well, you're dead, aren't you?" said Harry exasperatedly. "Who can answer better than you?" "I was afraid of death," said Nick. "I chose to remain behind. I sometimes wonder whether I oughtn't to have. Well, that is neither here nor there. In fact, I am neither here nor there." He gave a small, sad chuckle. "I know nothing of the secrets of death, Harry, for I chose my feeble imitation of life instead. I believe learned wizards study the matter in the Department of Mysteries." "Don't talk to me about that place," said Harry fiercely. "I am sorry not to have been more help," said Nick gently. Well, do excuse me. The feast, you know." And he left the room, leaving Harry there alone, gazing blankly at the wall through which Nick had disappeared. Harry felt almost as though he had lost his godfather all over again in losing the hope that he might be able to see or speak to him once more. He walked slowly and miserably back up through the empty castle, wondering whether he would ever feel cheerful again. He had turned the corner toward the fat lady's corridor when he saw somebody ahead fastening a note to a board on the wall. A second glance showed him that it was Luna. There were no good hiding places nearby. She was bound to have heard his footsteps, and in any case, Harry could hardly muster the energy to avoid anyone at the moment. "Hello," said Luna vaguely, glancing around at him as she stepped back from the notice. "How come you're not at the feast?" Harry asked. "Well, I've lost most of my possessions," said Luna serenely. "People take them and hide them, you know. But as it's the last night, I really do need them back, so I've been putting up signs." She gestured toward the notice board, upon which, sure enough, she had pinned a list of all her missing books and clothes, with a plea for their return. An odd feeling rose in Harry, an emotion quite different from the anger and grief that had filled him since Sirius's death. It was a few moments before he realized that he was feeling sorry for Luna. "How come people hide your stuff?" he asked her, frowning. "Oh, well," she shrugged. "I think they think I'm a bit odd, you know. Some people call me Loony Lovegood, actually."